You're going to have some niche things, some main street shops, some things like that like, people are always going to want. There's always going to be a small number of those. But even those, right, like how they process their books, how they do their marketing, right, like, AI enablement can like really boost them. Like 80% of our small business owners say that like they're at least exploring.
AI isn't the future, it's now. And whether you're in HR, sales, operations, or leadership, the choices you make today will determine whether you thrive or get left behind. Welcome to AI, Voice or Victim. I'm Greg Boone, Marketing Executive and AI Serious.
And I'm Erica Rooney, author, speaker, and gender equality advocate, and I'm AI Curious. And we are here to cut through the noise and show you how to leverage AI in your career, your business, and your brand. In every episode, we will break down real-world use cases and give you AI-driven strategies that you can apply immediately. Ready to stay ahead of the curve? Let's jump in. John, welcome to the Voice or Victim podcast. How's it going?
Good. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Oh my gosh, before we go real in, y'all, you have to know, listeners, this is a full circle moment for the three of us sitting here because we all used to work together at the same company at the same time. And how wild is that?
That is very wild. John and I first started working together back in 2010.
2009, 2010. Yeah, long time.
Yeah, he was there before me. He was there in 2009. I joined in 2010. So yeah.
This was pre-Gray.
For all of
everything.
Us. Hey, speak for yourselves, y'all. Speak for yourselves.
Better seasoned now.
Yeah.
All right. John Zeren, for everyone listening, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah. Long time, web applications enthusiast, right? Like since I was a kid, been playing with web technologies in the 90s, saw the .com bubble, said, hey, this is what I want to go to school for. So I went to NC State and got my computer science degree, said, I want to program. I want to do something in web applications. And I've been there for over 2 decades now. And so like I've dipped my toes in a lot of different technologies, but web applications seems to be my core and just something that I enjoy. And then with the recent release of, Gen AI tools and everything being API based, like this is like right in my wheelhouse and everything that's interesting to me and how it's evolving is just keeping me in this space.
So you're just sitting there like, what a time to be alive.
I'm loving it. Yeah. I'm loving it.
What are you most excited about?
Where is this thing going? I don't know. Right. Like, it's every day is an interesting, news feed, not just politically, but like even technology, right? Where it's like, just when you think you know something or the features of something new, like things are cranking out and churning out so quickly. Especially with like the DeepSeek thing, right? Like that was not on my radar. And all of a sudden I wake up and everybody is on my news feed or on my Slack and like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? No, I haven't. I check it out and I'm like, where did this come from? Right. And the fact that they could do it in such a. So
go in on that, right? Because this podcast is for the AI serious, like Greg Boone, and then also the AI curious. We're kind of dipping our toes in there. What is all that?
Yeah. Good point. So hopefully most people are at least familiar with something like ChatGPT,
yes. Right?
Like people have heard that. Hopefully that's become like a household name. DeepSeek is essentially a competitor to ChatGPT. It provides a lot of the same functions where it's got, large language models behind the scenes. This is basically kind of like what conjures the magic, if you will, when you ask it a question. But it came with all the bells and whistles and similar features of ChatGPT. And they did it with a team that was much smaller, right? And there's some speculation like, well, they used some of the, rode on the shoulders of giants, right? Like a lot of the technology was, people put hours and hours and hours into building kind of the foundation and they sort of piggybacked on that. But it's fair game, right? And so I think it's that kind of competition that will keep these tools evolving and evolving quickly. And anybody in this space needs to kind of be alert to that fact.
Yeah, I mean, it shattered the existing paradigm of how do you train and build out a model, right? Like I don't have all the details, but the rumor is it's less than $6 million spent to train it, right? I I still want to see the receipts, right? Yeah. But to John's point, it's a derivative work. So if you think about it in the sense that a lot of technologies work their way over the years, right? You piggyback off of, what was invented before you and then improve upon it and however you define improving it. But the other part of it is basically given away, right? So it was free. So you get 95% of the ChatGPT baseline functionality for $0, yep. Right? And so we're moving into this time in which, to have a PhD in your pocket is almost free for most people to some point. Even the ChatGPTs and the others, the average cost is like $20 a month.
Yeah.
Right. I know people that have 5 streaming services that they pay more money than that. How about have a PhD in your pocket and get rid of one of those streaming services if you need to make a choice, even if that's a choice? I don't think that's a real choice.
I don't think it's a choice.
No. John, when you think of the non-technical people like myself, right? I'm very familiar with ChatGPT. I think most people are kind of, like you said, it's a household name. They may not be using it as much, but they know about it. They know what they can use it for. What other tools should people be using, right? Thinking of the non-technical lens. And I want to ask, how can they take that information and those applications into their work?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think the answer really just depends on the nature of the problems that the person needs to solve. And so I think it starts with, if you're curious, doing some exploration, right? So if you've heard of ChatGPT and you haven't yet put it on your phone, try it, right? Like, it is free, right? Like, you can use it. It will take a lot to exhaust your limit for a 24-hour period, and then they'll replenish it. So even if you don't want to pay anything, ChatGPT is a great place to start. But it just depends on what it is you're trying to solve. And so, if you're looking for graphics generation, ChatGPT is okay, but there are tools that are much better with computer vision and better at producing images, like Midjourney or something like that. But I think it starts with, what are you trying to solve? And if you don't know what you're trying to solve, get ChatGPT and ask it, right? Like, say, here are some of the problems in my life. What do you think? What tools are out there? It will, the tools that it knows about, it will surface recommendations of other AI tools that you can use to kind of point you in the right direction.
What's your favorite one?
That's it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I want to pick a favorite yet. I think the one that I use.
You're asking him what his favorite child is,
right? Yeah,
you're wondering why he's squirming
that
over
I got is he's like, I can't give an answer.
It's kind of like a race, right? Where it's like, oh, today is this one, today is that one. But no, I think ChatGPT is just really accessible, and so I actually have several that I use every day, but for quick things, right? I used to Google things. Now I ChatGPT things, right? And it's simple things, right? Like, my workout routine at home was getting stagnant. So I'm like, okay, I weigh this much, I'm this active, I have this much time, I have this equipment at home, build me a workout plan for 30 days. And within seconds, now I have that, right? And I did that and I gained some muscle mass. I'd hit some goals very quickly. And it's like, I didn't have to go pay a personal trainer, but it was like, that was a personal problem I wanted to solve. And I just plugged it in. So ChatGPT is a good baseline. I do have a technical background and I do a lot of technical work, software engineering. And so Claude to me has lent itself to be a little bit better on the technical side. So whether it's helping to generate code snippets or DB connections or different things like that, Claude seems a little bit more just straightforward for technical work. But I mean, ChatGPT's capable in a similar way. Yeah.
That's my go-to. And let's play a game.
Oh,
what? Boy. Pull out your phone and tell me, what is the last thing you typed into your ChatGPT?
Oh my gosh.
Wait a minute. I don't know if I like this game.
This is a good game.
I don't know if I like this game.
Probably how to be on a podcast. So. All right, let me see what I got.
Is this just for John? This is just for John.
No,
right?
This is for you too. This is going to be, we're going to have a moment of sharing and vulnerability. We're all family here.
Don't people do that for Instagram when they were like,
yes, they do. But listen, okay, I'll tell you, the last thing was not, it was for our last podcast that we did, but the one before that, because we're going to be vulnerable here, right? It's like, okay. I'm getting older. I just turned 40 last week, guys. And I was like, what is this burning pain in my chest? And so I first started with Google, which of course sent me down a death spiral. And then I was like, what am I doing in Google anyways? And I went to ChatGPT and they were like, well, girl, you're 40. so here's what's up. And it gave me some things. And
Was
they're
it
like,
that sassy?
Pretty much, because I'm sassy with my chat GPT. And she's like, you need to go eat a banana. You're probably hungry. So John, what was your last chat?
So as much as I was boosting up Claude for technical, my last thing on ChatGPT was a technical question.
Oh.
And so I actually have my own personal project that I'm working on, AI related web app, which I'll reveal at a later time. But I had asked ChatGPT to help me fix a bug that I had written in my search and filter part of my application.
I love that.
Banging my head on the wall for a few minutes. I'm like, I don't have to solve this. Technology can help me solve this. So I sent in my code snippet and it fixed it for me within minutes.
Look at that. Greg Boone?
What game were we playing?
Oh, he played in the fifth on that. But
all right. So mine was actually not technical. I went and looked back and I was like, all right, what is this? That I'm gonna have to divulge on camera here. But I actually was looking up job titles, and I was looking up something for HR for somebody I'm looking to hire. And I was like, what does this role called? This is what I need to happen, right? And it gave me 5 different options. And I said, hey, okay, this one makes sense. And I test message with actual humans. It's like, what do you think about this title? Like, yeah, that's kind of spot on for that thing. But I had no clue. And to John's point, I wasn't going to spend the next hour trying to figure out something and then just come up with the tiny amount that was in my brain. It's like, what does the rest of the world think about it? And that's how I view it. The other thing, I'm just hoping that we get to a point where we don't even call it search anymore. It's a conversation. I'm not searching for anything. And I was at an event several weeks back, and there was an AI expert from Microsoft there, and he said that his kids don't call it search. And they think it's weird when people say, what do you mean search? I went and got an answer. I wasn't searching for anything.
Yeah.
Oh, all these outdated old people up in here saying things. But what I want to tap in on is like, those were 3 very different, very useful chat GPT discussions, right? But one thing that we were talking about before camera and what this podcast is all about, which is voice and victim, right? So like we were using it for our voice, but John, you were telling us a story about a true victim of AI. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So kind of what we were talking about before was I actually have a stepbrother of mine who's just a few years older than me. He's a seasoned artist local to Durham nearby. But he's, artist by passion, but by profession, graphics designer. And he's worked in all kinds of corporations building, graphic design, marketing design, PowerPoint templates.
So talented,
individual. Graphics artist. And a few months ago, he was laid off from his job. And so were a lot of others. And the timing is actually interesting because I also have another ex-colleague that I used to work with, same profession, same thing happened about the same time frame where he got laid off from his graphics design job. And so I've been talking with my stepbrother about this and, what's out there. Recruiters don't even want to answer his call, right? Like nobody's hiring for this position. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together that like the boom of AI tools for graphics generation is out there. And there's tons of them now. There's some that are clear winners in this space, but there are cheaper options out there and plenty out there. So companies looking to cut costs are laying off people with the skill set of decades in favor or an exploration of trying to use AI tools for this. And so, that story is still ongoing. And so hopefully, when we talk again later, like there's a happy ending to it. But, something he and I talked about, and I didn't even have to bring it, right? Like I'm the technology guy, but the first time we started talking about, what can he do and, what can we do to try to like find him a job in this space? He said he was already looking into university courses dedicated to AI and bringing you up to speed. And he's very interested in that. And like, best case scenario, can he marry AI and graphics design? And I think absolutely. But, even as a career pivot, he's like, this stuff's interesting, right? Like I'm learning Python and he's upskilling and learning how to build agents and things like that. And so we'll see where that goes. But, at this point in time, like the thing he built his career on for decades is diminishing. And, if you don't kind of keep up with the times, you're not going to have a spot.
Well, let's talk about that, because that is the biggest fear that people have right now, is that AI is coming for their jobs. They're going to be out of work. And I mean, this happens periodically, right? With the invention of the car, with the invention of robots, things like this happen. What advice would you give for people who can feel AI marching towards their job?
Yeah, I mean, I would say embrace it, right? Like it's not going anywhere. There's no going back to the old days and the old ways of doing it. Like, these are tools, and we have to learn how to use these tools. And I think in the case of my stepbrother, I think the short-sightedness would be, okay, well, there's some AI tools, so let's just like have somebody less skilled run those tools. But they don't have the eye or the attention for detail or the ability to touch up and make it just right. And so like I think AI needs human supervision. And so it's not about people being replaced with AI, but it's about how do you use this as a new tool? How do you adapt and use the new tool set that you have with your existing skill set and put that together? And I think that's going to be the future. There's not all the jobs will go away. They will change, and you will have to know how to use AI for your profession.
Well, and this is where the creativity really comes in, because you have to reimagine what your role looks like in tandem with AI.
Yeah.
And that's not something that AI can tell or predict for you, because it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is actually another similar example, right? Actually, somebody that I work with today, he's a front-end developer, and I've worked with him for over a decade now. And there are a lot of great code generation tools out there, right? Especially for front end, right? You have a design and it can just slice and dice and write the code in a matter of seconds. And he's like, I'm going to be out of job. He's like, you're going to let me go soon because you have all these AI tools. And I was like, no, you have to kind of steward the generation piece. And so it's about embrace the new tools out here. I encourage him to explore it. I'm not replacing him with an AI subscription. But what I would like to do is maybe I don't have to hire 2 more employees to help with our capacity and our workload, but he can augment his skills into piping it into some Gen AI tool to help write some code, and then he can maybe write more code faster or take away some of the tedious jobs of like writing unit tests, right? Like that takes a lot of time. Well, now AI can do it in seconds. So now we don't really have to worry about that, and we can still have our code coverage.
Yeah, I would say, on top of that, maybe you also as a business want to say, hey, maybe we can release software faster, more often.
Yeah.
Right. People are missing out on that point. Like the advancements of these technologies are happening so much faster in the AI powered space than the companies that are taking a traditional path. So at some point as business leaders, you need to also accept that, hey, you may need to start to pump things out faster because the expectations, you're going to start to get lapped by people that didn't even exist a year ago, right? If companies are using Claude or Cursor or other things to build these apps. My concern also is that for folks like your stepbrother is the hiring managers, the leaderships on the other side, if they're not embracing it, right, and not even just embracing it, they're not understanding it, they're not understanding the value of candidates that have graphic design plus AI, right? That have HR plus AI and how it can really help them grow and upskill. So for me, it's about also, it's not just the individuals that are the victims. Part of the reason why they're the victims is those that are in seats in a position of power, like the folks here. If we don't embrace it, if we don't understand it, then we don't know what we're actually missing. One thing we had on a different podcast, we talked about the time equation. We talked about how much time knowledge workers spend each week just learning or searching for the things they need to do their job. And it's staggering. It's like upwards of 65% of their time is just finding the thing to do their job. Great. So what is your take on the time equation part that you're seeing?
Yeah. And they'll probably, like, we could probably plot this on a graph, right? Like where right now you're saying it takes 60% to just find the things. I think there will be kind of a leveling out of that, where when there's not such an influx and overwhelm of different tools and things to discover, that becomes a little bit easier. And I think the other thing that's very important too, I'm going to deviate away from the time equation just a little bit and go back to employers needing to embrace it first, is something that I've recognized, and I was at the AI conference in New York a few months ago and saw a lot of this, and a lot of people are talking about this. The bigger the company, the harder and slower it is for them to take on AI. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of regulation.
It's like steering the Titanic.
It's like steering the Titanic, and there's a lot of, old hats, running the ship, and there's compliance and there's policy, and it's like, well, this is too much, right? And as you get smaller in size, the easier it is to adopt and embrace. But it has to be embraced at the leadership level. And there's a couple of good reasons for that, but I would say, as a technologist and somebody who runs a security and risk management department at my company, it's about the safety and integrity of the company's confidential information, right? If you don't put the right tools in place, your employees will find tools that aren't safe to use, and then all of a sudden proprietary information is leaking out. But if you at the leadership level embrace it and say which tools are valid and provide the licenses for people and say, when you're at work, use these things, people will use it. If you don't give them that choice, they're going to go use it anyways, but they're not going to use the version that's like gated to 100% to your IP.
So here's what I love and I hate about AI, right? From the AI curious over here, I used to always tell people I'm not a techie. I'm not a techie. That's why I married a project manager, because he handles all the tech stuff. I can't turn on my TV at home. Like, I don't know how to operate the microwave because it's connected to Alexa or something. Who knows? But AI is forcing me to reimagine the way I view technology because it's changing the way I work. And so now I'm kind of seeing that everyone is forced to be a technologist now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I also think it's being made easy. It's being made easy to use.
Yep.
So AI is not a new concept, right? It's been around for a long time. It was hard. It was so hard. Like, I didn't even want to touch it, right? But now, like, a lot of the hard work's done, and putting nice, easy to use interfaces, things that people can just talk to tell it an idea of what you're trying to accomplish, and it will just figure it out. So yeah, everybody's being forced to be a technologist, but at least it's being made easier, maybe more accessible is the right word.
I still don't know how to turn on my TV the right way, but I can use ChatGPT.
It's a personal problem. But what I would say is that it's I don't have to be an electrician to know how to turn on the lights, right?
Yeah.
And we're getting to that point where it's a general purpose technology, right? And to the point it's just always in your pocket. It's no different than any other app that you would have. It's probably the most powerful app that you have. Again, we always make the analogy that you have a PhD in your pocket, right, at all times. So be able to use it. But it's going to get to the point where everyone is just a natural part of not just professional life, but at home, right? The idea that I'm, again, going to spend, an hour trying to figure out what I'm going to cook for dinner versus saying, hey, John and I were talking a while ago, and he was talking about how he was using it for recipes and things. Yeah. I use it to do a fun little coloring book app with my daughter, my oldest daughter, and we go back and forth. It lets her choose. It's a little game. Then it creates a black and white photo. Then we print it out and we color it, and that's our bedtime activity, right? If people start to get, and not just the folks that are the victims on a personal job perspective, but if the hiring managers, the leaders, others start to embrace, this is just a part of the world now, right? This is not I do this. I remember when we used to work together back in the day, there was this, what was your, there would be the bring your own device, protocols and this and that, right? But recently there was a stat I saw on AI to John's point about not having the protocols, people are going to choose their own. Nearly 80% of all workers are already using AI. So you telling them that they're not, no, we're not going to do it. Okay.
Yeah. Tell somebody that you need a 10-page report on, something that they're doing, and they can't use an AI tool that's sanctioned by the company. Well, guess what? They're taking that proprietary information to their own personal ChatGPT account. And now, that whatever model it's using is learning and training and absorbing that information.
So riddle me this, because I'm also in the world of content creation. I put a lot of stuff out on Instagram and LinkedIn and all of that. And we all do it. every single person in this space uses it and does it, but there seems to be this like, oh, we can tell your posts are made by AI. And it's like, well, yeah, why wouldn't I be using that? Why do you think there's almost that double standard? It's like you have to try to make your stuff seem like you didn't put it through AI.
I need you to sound illiterate.
Right. Like, what? Do you need me to have a spelling error in there? Would that be better? Because then when I do that, people send me DMs about how I don't know how to spell.
Maybe that's, misery loves company. Maybe it's people that haven't evolved yet. Maybe they're jealous, right? Like, you're finding success by, leveraging these tools in the right way, and they haven't yet figured that out yet.
Yeah, I agree. I said to someone just yesterday, I said, I'm going to say this again. If you think that I'm only using this to write emails, you clearly don't understand me or how these technologies work. It is not about writing emails. I rarely ever use it to write an email, truthfully. Because for me, if I have to use AI to help with my email, I probably should have called the person or had a meeting.
Yeah.
Right. I use it to distill long emails that people send me.
Yeah.
Because half the time I'm like, I don't even know what to take away from this.
Yeah.
You sent me a book in an email. I don't want to respond. And someone said to me, it was like, well, I don't feel like that's authentic or human. I was like, you get lost in translation and respond the wrong way, not understanding the sentiment. One of the things that I think AI does a great job of is distilling sentiment.
Yeah.
Right. And that way that you can just say, things in a very generic way. And it's like, all right, what Greg is really asking for me to do is X. If you use like a deep research or something, a reasoning model, it'll show you what it thought from what Greg actually said. But it took me back to when John and I worked together. I don't know if you remember this moment, but I remember one of our clients reached out to me and they said, hey, and they sent us in an email and they said, do you guys do like a literacy exam at all for some of your devs? And we can talk off camera who it was, and you'll know right away. But I thought about that.
I was not in HR then.
You were not. This was in. But I saw that and it was for the first time, and then I was like, all right, I don't know what this is about. And then they sent me some examples of the emails, and I was like, okay, you have a point here. It's basically like they did what they would do in Slack and just send it as an email to the customer.
Yeah.
And the client was like, what is this?
That's just like blatantly not using spell check.
That's a human problem.
But even so, if we go back and bring the parallels back to AI, right? I've recently got some content from some folks for something, and we got to like the final draft, and the final draft had typos in it. And I'm thinking to myself, you didn't even use
run it through to
you didn't even run it to basic, like
tidy it up.
Right. I don't know what the point is you're trying to prove. And then the other part of it is we talk about is optionality with AI. It's like now as a consumer, everything that I do, I want versions of it.
Yeah.
I want versions of creative. I want versions of copywriting. I want versions of emails, white papers, right? Even if we talk about making songs and things on Suno, these all naturally know that humans want optionality. So everything that you do, they'll give you, for Suno, you'll get 2 songs every time you prompt, right? Mid-Journey, you'll get 3 or 4 different versions of it because it's about optionality, because the human part, we talk about this a lot, the curiosity, the creativity, but then the ability to just choose, right? I'm not asking for AI to tell me everything. I'm asking it to give me options to choose from.
Yeah.
So how do you, what is your take on, I know I said a lot there, but how your folks are using it. What I want to understand is the non-tech folks.
Yeah.
How are they using the tools, and how are you getting them to use the tools?
Yeah, that's a great question. In our organization, I work for a company called Hello Alice, and our kind of our whole focus is to help small businesses get off the ground. So we've got a platform of 1.5 million small business users in our platform, but our company is not big. We're about 30 people, and the tech side is like 6, including myself. So the rest of the company is not necessarily technology oriented. But my boss, he's kind of the visionary, and he saw the writing on the wall with AI years ago, and he started to look at these tools, and he was like just waiting for a Chat GPT or a Claude to have a team version or an enterprise version, because he was using it in his personal, and we were starting to like form an AI policy at work to say like, how can you and can you not use AI? But once that started to come together, for our non-tech folks. So like specifically we do, to cater to our small business owners, we do a lot of content generation in a lot of different forms. Obviously we have, email campaigns and things like that from a marketing perspective, but we do a lot of educational content. We do a lot of events. and a lot of like high touch things with all of these small business owners. And so it started with just inspecting the day-to-day operations of the folks. So whether it's the content writer, the email marketer, the people in charge of events, like, what are you doing day to day? How are you doing this? And like, actually the pain point came up, capacity. We need to hire more. I can't do this on my own. And, he kind of called BS. He's like, I think we can, and there are tools out here, so let's see what we can do. Needless to say, we haven't hired any more people. We're producing more content. But what it takes is it takes an advocate. So in this case, he was the advocate. It takes a little bit of training. And so it's like, context is key. We talked about this before too, where it's like garbage in, garbage out. If you don't prompt correctly, you're not going to get the right result. So it's about training on context. And I think that like the real accelerator that really took off internally was when we started to put together templates. Events all have very similar structures, right? So let's put together the event based on this template. Here are the variables. Here are the things that are changing. Here's the change in the context. Generate me 12 events for the year, right? Here's, we need 10 blog posts for the next 2 months. Here are the topics. Here's our structure. Here's our voice, and boom, go. And it's by no means is it generate and plug and play. It's generate, review. So now time is not being spent as much in writing as it is in like reviewing the output. And so for our non-technical folks, I'd say for in my experience, in my company's experience, it's been around content generation, but using good context, great templates, and the human eye and mind to review the output and adjust until it fits.
And that was very thorough and thoughtful. I appreciate that. And I think it has to be a natural part of the process, right? Which you laid out. I was mentoring a creative director recently. He was asking me about AI and different things. And I said, all right, here's the goal. This is what you need to do. You need to do X, Y, and Z within this time frame, this and that. We were having a conversation. And we were just texting back and forth. And then he responded in, I think, the most brilliant way. He said, "Stop prompting me, Greg Boone." Right? But that's the point. What I was trying to get across to him is like, you have to give it the right set of context and criteria. What is the task you're trying to achieve? What is the goal that you're trying to achieve? What people don't understand is if you start with the end in mind, start with the goal that you're trying to accomplish, what you'll find is you'll have an amazing thought partner that will help you get to the goal, right? You don't have to give it all the steps. That's the whole point of it, is get to the goal. I want to make X, and it will start to give you some of the steps. And then you can refine the steps. You're like, actually, I've already got, for example, if you're trying to cook something, right? I got these 4 ingredients, right? I have a stove. I have these other things that I have an air fryer, right? Great, right? And you start to lay that context and you'll be amazed. And you're like, shit, I didn't know I could make that, right? But in our minds, like I would just end up with a sandwich, right? Yeah. And so, but if you take that kind of analogy and that parallel into the professional world, it's like, imagine what great work you can do for your team and your clients if you didn't just base it on the things that only you knew. But now in your pocket, you have every chef in the world, right, and what they can make. And so for me, it's just understanding and helping folks better understand. But I do think it's both sides of the equation, which is the individual employee base, getting them more comfortable and accepting. I'm not asking folks to be AI serious like you and I, John. We're trying to get them at least from anxious to curious, like Erica. But then we have to do the same thing with management, with leadership. Understand, and it's okay to, quote, prompt folks. Tell them when you need to have the thing done and let them figure it out. And I guarantee you, they're not going to work 25 hours in a day because that is not real. What they were going to do is figure out how to use these tools to get much faster. So
what makes me really nervous about AI right now, when I think about it through the employer lens and I put my little HR hat on, is we do put the policies in place that say, you can't take the whole playbook and plug it into ChatGPT, right? But people do it anyways, right? The policies are there, but we all know there's bad behavior that doesn't get seen. And then what do we do when all of our stuff is out there? And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that either.
Yeah, but
right?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, that's
I
why
think-
part of it is so scary.
I think that my bet is that there's two things. One, like if you use a corporate account, in theory, right, it's not training on your data. That's thing one. That's what they say in their, right, things get hacked all the time, right? But if I think about it, how we evolved just on like the acceptance that we have on the applications that we have on our phone and our devices today, people don't read the fine print. I was speaking, 6-7 years ago at UNC Business School, and we were talking about how the website that you're looking at probably doesn't look the same as the way I look at it because it's based on all this personalization that was in there. The look on folks' faces when I told them that they looked, I was shocked. This was in 2017 or 18. And I was like, what did y'all think you were signing up for when you were giving all of this data away to be able to personalize these things? I imagine that companies over time are going to just be a lot more lax and they're like, this is the new normal, right? So I can either be horse-powered, with these things, or I can live in the olden days and not. But it's not going to go away. And then the same organizations most of them that are running this, OpenAI is connected to Microsoft and to their Azure and their cloud, Google and their cloud. All that data is already there, right? So if you're concerned about it not getting into the ecosystem, too late.
Yeah.
Once you went to the cloud, it's already there.
You know what I envision? And if somebody's listening to this, it's a great idea. You can just cut me a little check later. But like a whole new level of insurance that companies now have to start putting into place. And it's going to be some kind of an IP liability AI insurance.
They will try that, for sure.
I'll take whatever cut.
They will try that. It's always been tried, right? There's like, I was having a conversation with someone recently about a different PII related data, right? And like financial services and making sure that, what is your policy, right, to that point. And that'll start to get layered in. And so I asked a question at a conference several weeks back about, hey, what do you do when governance for AI is completely dictated by the legal team? And what the guy said to me, he said, think about it like this. He said in the healthcare space, and he was using an example of AI being able to diagnose with like 92% accuracy versus the average doctor. Love doctors, love everything that they do for us. But if I have 92% diagnosis accuracy versus 70-something%, right? Yeah, I kind of want the AI-powered doctor, right, to be helpful. And so what he said, think about it this way. He said in the next 5 years, it's more likely than not that doctors won't be able to do surgery without AI. It will be illegal to do it without these things. He said it's also more likely than not that in the future, cars will not be manufactured without AI, given how many deaths there are with the average human driver. So when people say they don't want these things, just think about it. There is a positive side to all of these.
Yeah, couple notes. Like one on the 100% where it'll probably start to be a legality thing where it's like, this is so much better and so many more lives can be saved. Like when you talk about human lives and if more can be saved by using the technology, I absolutely agree. And I've been thinking about this for a long time too with self-driving cars, right? And a lot of people are real anxious about self-driving cars. And I'm like, I would trust the computer code more than I trust that guy
on their cell
phone, distracted driving any day of the week. And the more self-driving cars that are out there, the more the neural network can work properly and anticipate all the moves and traffic can flow much faster. So I envision a world in, 10, 20 years or whatever, when it's almost all self-driving cars, or maybe it should be. And then the like traffic flows, speeds, safety, like all of that will go in such a positive direction. I do want to go back and talk to you, answer your question about the containment piece. And, I said I didn't have an answer, but I do think enablement is key, right? And kind of like what I talked about, where it's like big companies have too much red tape to get it going and people just bypass the red tape. But if you embrace it and you provide the tools, and if you provide maybe higher quality tools, right? People at home don't want to spend hundreds of dollars a month for all of their AI tools, right? They're just not going to do that. So if they can get a better quality tool at work to do their work, then they're more likely to use that one than the free version. So
that, my friend, is an incredible answer.
Yeah,
Spot on.
It's not like there'll always be bad actors and there's always going to be this risk of data loss and things like that. But I think you can reduce it by enabling the team and giving them
Yes.
the right tools.
I mean, we're talking $20 to $100 a month per employee. We're not talking about some big ERP implementation, right? And that's the thing where I think people got a little bit twisted. And it's just like, this is not the same type of digital transformation. Yes, it is a transformation, right? And I love that phrasing, enablement. I was, chatting with ChatGPT, and I was like, what should I say other than change management? Because people hate being changed, they hate being converted, they hate management. And it kept coming back as like AI empowerment, AI enablement, because I was like, I got to figure out a way because, I'll go back just for a second here to talk about, I love what Hello Alice is doing in the mission in SMB. I am fearful. Erica hears me say this all the time. I am so fearful for the SMB community because it's a double-edged sword of sorts, I guess, or maybe not double-edged sword, but it's coming at them in two different directions. From an SMB perspective, there's going to be disruption as it relates to new entrants that can easily spin up, right? Because of these tools, the people that embrace it, if you think about Cursor as a company, they went from 0 to 100 million ARR in 1 year with 10 people.
Yeah, that's insane.
1 year, right, as a business. But then on the other side where I'm very concerned is the impact of, we've talked about this before, about AI overviews and the change from Google from a search perspective, the email flooding. Like on one side, SMBs are going to have a hard time being found, right, online. And, and then on the other side, I just think that the competition is just going to be massive. I see so many new tools, so many new companies spin up. It's like the same number that are spinning up, I'm seeing also go down and out, right? So what is Hello Alice seeing any of this from a SMB? You're in a great position to help people be more AI curious.
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think there's good news for SMBs, right? Bad news for those who don't want to adopt AI.
That's my big if. The extinction level event is for the folks that don't want to adopt it.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone. I'm just simply saying, if you don't. Yeah.
That is almost guaranteed. You're going to have some niche things, some main street shops, some things like that people are always going to want. And there's always going to be a small number of those. But even those, right, like how they process their books, how they do their marketing, right, like, AI enablement can like really boost them. But what we've seen a couple like really cool key indicators. One, we do some surveys around AI usage, how comfortable are you with AI? And like 80% of our small business owners say that like they're at least exploring, right? And we talk to them face to face all the time at events. And every year we have at least one come, as kind of a Christmas thing, like talk about their story and there's some gift involved or whatever. But we get a chance to interact with, real SMBs and ask them questions. And every single person that we talk to so far is using AI in some capacity, whether it's to help with their email campaigns or help generate their content or their blogs or just organize their day. A lot of them are using it as like an assistant. I've got all these things to do. What should I focus on today? And so at least 80% are interested and exploring, which is great. A very small number say they're proficient right now. But the other thing that's a really cool key indicator, we do a lot of events online and in person, and attendance is sometimes a challenge, right? Like you have to get like 2 or 3x the number of people that say they're going to come to get the number to actually show up, right? Like, you got to go over. When the topic has the word AI in it, we see like a 10x registration there. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people will want to join, and like a 90% show rate on those. So people are very interested. The small businesses are definitely tuning in and listening. So I think those that do and those that pay attention, they're going to survive. Those that don't, I think that extinction event is inevitable.
Yeah, one thing I always tell folks is like there's this weird byproduct of AI that is actually in a lot of ways making us more human and bringing us together. Whether it's because, again, I'm a big believer that because of the impact on search and email, there's just going to be a lot more people in events. I've said this all week to multiple folks that we're trying to figure out our own events, right? I'm going to several. I say you're going to see an explosion of people going to events because one, people don't, it's their FOMO, right? So part of it is like, I need to at least hear what's happening. Whether I'm doing anything or not, I can't be left behind, right? But the other part of it is there's this massive distrust. I don't know what's real or not. right? And the only way that I know it's real is if I go touch and I go shake his hand. I don't know who virtual John is, So that's my my take there. I do think it's going to create greater humanity as a byproduct because people are going to want to be together more. So
yeah, and you talked about noise, and there's a lot of noise generated by AI. It's less noisy in the human world, right? And so, like, I agree with you there, and I do think we see it with the small business owners too, that like community is huge for them and interpersonal communication. So I agree with that.
John, for our listeners, what is the one thing they can do in the next 24 hours to take action and
24 hours, John.
Move this AI needle forward?
Easy. All right. Easy answer here. Get ChatGPT, right? Like just put it on your phone. If you already have it, find another AI tool. Get a second tool. So that's my advice. If you already have
my challenge.
If you already have 2 or more tools, then you don't need the answer to this question. But if you haven't started yet, start with something simple like ChatGPT. And if you already have that one, get some other one.
Incredible. John, thank you so much for joining us on the Voice or Victim podcast. This was incredible.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on AI, Voice or Victim. If you want to stay competitive in the AI age, start now. Take one insight from today's episode and put it into practice in the next 24 hours. Make sure to follow us, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more actionable AI insights. See you next time.